direct democracy. Direct democracy involves the people's participation and their sovereignty. It takes place in the form of initiative, voting ballots, and polls, with people voting on specific matters that affect the community at large and directly voting for their candidate and not just the party or the specific. So many people don't know that we have different forms of democracy. It's not just the democracy that you hear of on TV or on the radio or in your textbooks. We have four types of democracies. You have liberal democracy, direct democracy, participatory democracy, and representative democracy. Now, let us inform you about these different types of democracies. So, Schumpeter speaks about the common good of the people and that it actually is kind of problematic because when it comes to the common good of the people, you have to accommodate each and every individual, and that is highly inconvenient because different people have different needs, different um, things that they need to be reached and attended to. Therefore, he then goes on and states that there is no perfect, uniquely common good of the people because we are so diverse and different within the society. We find that with the will of the people and their individual violation that there's a clash between them because when we look at the will of the will of the person may sometimes clash with other individuals, therefore creating a violation of the individual. Schumpeter goes on and states that if everyone acted on their will, it would not necessarily follow the political decisions produced by the process of those raw material of the individual's violation. Instead, it is not only conceivable, but whenever the individual's will are much divided, very likely that the political decisions are produced will not conform to what the people really want, nor can they be replied, and it is not exactly what they want. With the will of the people and the individual rights, we see that there's a contrasting and a clash between them. When we look at the will of the people, we see that someone's will and doing might be a violation of someone else's life and space. So therefore, there's a clash between the will of the people and actually, violating other people's spaces. Schumpeter then goes on and states that if everyone acts on their will, with rational idea and promptitude, it would not necessarily follow the political decisions produced by that process from the raw material of those individual violations. Therefore, it is not only conceivable, but whenever individual wills are much divided, very likely that the political decisions produced will not conform to what the will of the people really is or what the people actually want. Nor can it be replied that if not exactly what they want, they will get a fair compromise of what what actually can be reachable to everyone. For example, when we look at parliamentary monarchies such as England, um, we see that it fulfills the requirements of a democratic method because the monarch is particularly constrained to a point where a cabinet office is the same people as parliament would initially elect. So a constitutional monarchy does not qualify to be called a democratic because electorates and parliaments, while having all the other rights that electorates and parliaments have in parliamentary monarchies, lack the power to impose their choice As to governing committee, so you see that cabinet ministers are therefore servants of the monarch in substance as well as in the name, and can be in principle of dismissed as well as appointed by him in argument. Now, the democratic method does not necessarily guarantee a great amount of individual freedom than other political methods would permit. On principle, at least everyone is free to compete for political leadership by presenting themselves to the electorate. This will then, in most cases, though not all, mean that the amount of freedom of discussion or at all. So, Schumpeter then describes the democratic method as in that it doesn't necessarily guarantee a greater amount of individual freedom than other political methods. On principle, at least everyone is free to compete for political leadership by presenting themselves. This will then, in most cases, though not all, consider an amount of freedom of discussion or all inclusivity. So he then says he may have thought that the electorates control as well as installs, but since electorates normally do not control the political leadership in any way except by refusing to re-elect them or the parliamentary majorities that support them. So basically, evidently, the will of the majority is then the will of the majority and not the will of the people. So that in essence says that the will does not belong to the people at large, but the majority, those who actually, were had a big number to actually be able to have their views and their rights heard, and the minority then is left out. That then causes an imbalance, and actually, with what I was speaking about earlier on the discrimination and exclusivity of the individual versus the will of the people.
I think democracy is a failure because the man on the street doesn't know anything about governance, and that we should implement an absolute monarchy because good governance is hereditary.
What are your views on democracy?
I don't think South Africa has reached a democracy because we still have a neoliberal constitution. Neoliberal law is a very corrupt sort of government as it is, who's using neoliberalism to sort of control us. So until we sort of evaluate the kind of system that South Africa is in, then only will we understand and try to achieve democracy.
Views on democracy?
Yes, I think this is a very difficult question to ask, but I think it depends on the society we're talking about or the country we're talking about. But in many countries, I think democracy is not perfect. That's what I can say. But it has its difficulties, but it exists. I think that's what I can help.
Thank you. What are your views on democracy?
Democracy. Let's look at democracy. Oh, for me, democracy is more of a kind of it's kind of how can I say, involved. Right? It's that feeling where everyone feels. It's that kind of act where everyone feels they're participating or their opinions kind of really matter in a sense, or that's democracy for me. But to be honest, I don't see it working. Yeah, it's just one of those things.
Views on democracy. Well, I feel like the point where we are right now, I feel like there's been an attack on democracy, especially certain groups in society trying to impose their views on other groups in society, and especially when it comes to free speech. I feel like free speech is being attacked right now. And when people express their opinions and their opinions are not in line with the prominent ideology or any kind of dissent, is seen as hate speech. So I feel like people are really being silenced, especially on this campus. And I think it's just a general thing across campuses all over the country and even in the States and in Canada. But I feel like free speech is something that we're losing, and it's our democratic right.
Thank you very much.
Sure.